In the year 1506, a man named Yeongjong led a rebellion against the king of Chosun, successfully overthrowing him and establishing his rule over the kingdom. As his reign began, a devastating plague broke out. Yeongjong ordered his soldiers to eradicate all infected individuals. A desperate woman pleaded with the soldiers to spare her healthy daughter. Her cries fell on deaf ears, and she was shot in the back with an arrow. The young girl, miraculously surviving the chaos, tried in vain to wake her lifeless mother. A man descended into the pit and took the girl with him. As night fell, a haunting howl echoed from the pit. A decade has passed since that fateful day, and rumors have begun to circulate throughout the kingdom. The people speak in hushed tones of terrifying monsters that have emerged in the mountain where the infected were exterminated. Such rumors threaten to undermine Yeongjong's authority, forcing him to take drastic measures to quell the unrest. In a remote part of the kingdom, a man named Yun lives with his adopted daughter Myung and his friend Sung. They lead a simple life, struggling to find enough food to survive. Myung, concerned for their future, urges her father to move closer to the palace, where food is more accessible. However, Yun, stubborn and resolute, refuses to leave their remote village. One day, an unexpected visitor arrives at their home. A servant named Her, sent by the king, claims to be searching for a former member of the royal guard. Myung, unaware of her father's past, is confused, as she believes him to be an ordinary peasant. During the tense encounter, Myung nearly shoots Her with an arrow, but a spark of romance ignites between them instead. The truth soon comes to light. Yun and Sung were once the king's finest guards. Despite Her's pleas, Yun has no desire to return to his former life. However, the situation escalates when King Jeongjong himself arrives at Yun's home, recalling the events of 10 years ago. It is revealed that after the massacre in the pit, Yun had brought the young girl, Myung, to the palace, showing everyone that she was not infected. He was horrified by the king's cruelty and openly expressed his disappointment. Believing that the plague was no longer a threat, Yun accused the king of senselessly slaughtering his own people. In response, the king's guards drew their swords, but Sung bravely defended his friend. Despite this, the king decided to spare them, banishing Yun, Sung, and the little girl from the capital. Now, faced with a new threat, the king asks Yun to once again take up arms and defend the kingdom. He speaks of a monstrous creature that is ravaging the land, spreading disease and tearing apart civilians. Reluctantly, Yun agrees, and after a sleepless night, decides to return to Hanyang, the capital. Meanwhile, shamans perform a ritual by the river, hoping to rid the land of the beast. Their efforts are in vain, as they are brutally attacked. Upon arriving in Hanyang, Yun and his companions are shocked to see the once prosperous capital in ruins. The city has fallen into disrepair, and the people are struggling to survive. They find Her and investigate the site of the recent attack, discovering the mutilated bodies of the shamans and traders. Yun notices strange marks on their ankles, leading him to suspect foul play. The young witness, though not afraid, describes something unusual, but refuses to admit fear. Determined to uncover the truth, Yun and Sung follow the girl, who leads them to a man in hooded clothing. Sung gives chase, but fails to catch him. The witness later confesses that she lied about the events at the river in exchange for food. The monster, she believes, is real, but she has not seen it herself. Another attack soon occurs in the mountains, where Yun and Sung find knife marks and strange blisters on the victims' bodies. They also discover a body pinned high in a tree, something no human could have done. Reporting back to the king, Yun concludes that the attacks were orchestrated by a person, not a beast. However, the victims were infected with a mysterious disease, killing a mouse test subject within hours of contact. The king, alarmed by this revelation, orders the formation of a search party to hunt down the monster, placing Yun in charge. The search party, composed of 100 soldiers and unwilling volunteers from the peasant population, sets out into the mountains. Among the volunteers, Yun is surprised and frustrated to find Myung, who has disguised herself as a guard. Despite his orders for her to stay behind, she persuades him to let her join the mission. As they search the mountains, the group finds little of note, except for some pink slime dripping from the trees. As night falls, the search party encounters its first real challenge. An elderly volunteer wanders off, leading Sung to a cliff where he finds fresh traces of red fluid. Yun, Myung, and Her soon join him, and the area stirs something deep within Myung, as if she has been there before. They find the imprint of a massive paw, suggesting the presence of a large creature. The volunteers, on Yun's orders, continue their search in the pit. Meanwhile, the Royal Army commander Jin, who is leading another group, has his own agenda. He orders his soldiers to eliminate all the peasant volunteers in their group, a brutal act that they carry out without hesitation. As Yun's group witnesses a signal fire, indicating that Jin has supposedly found the monster, they are suddenly attacked by arrows. Jin's soldiers massacre the remaining peasants, but Yun's group manages to survive. However, they are soon captured and tied up by Jin's men. Jin reveals that the monster never existed. The kingdom's soldiers have been deliberately exterminating the peasants to maintain fear and control. Raged by these revelations, Myung recalls the traumatic events of her childhood and fights to free herself. Jin, indifferent, pushes Myung and Her into the pit, but they manage to survive by clinging to a rope. As the group struggles to escape, they hear heavy breathing and see a massive clawed paw emerge from the darkness. The creature climbs out of the pit, attacking and slaughtering Jin's soldiers with terrifying speed. The survivors, covered in blisters and sores, are horrified by the sight of the real monster. The creature, unstoppable and immune to their weapons, continues its rampage, tearing through the remaining soldiers. Yun and Sung manage to free themselves and descend into the pit, where they find Myung and Her still alive. An old man who had disappeared earlier during the search operation suddenly appears and offers them advice. He tells them to smear themselves with the monster's slime to avoid infection and to mask their human scent. Following his instructions, they extinguish their torches and remain silent as the creature approaches. The monster, unable to see well but sensitive to sound and movement, gets close to Myung but does not detect them. The group seizes the opportunity to escape, but the creature soon senses their presence and gives chase. They navigate through the cave's labyrinth, narrowly avoiding being caught. The path ends at a cliff, forcing them to jump into the water below to escape. Meanwhile, Jin and a few surviving soldiers return to the palace, reporting to Prime Minister Sim that the monster is real. Sim, who had been orchestrating the brutal crimes and manipulating the king's decisions, is now worried that the people will turn against the government. He orders the soldiers to burn the city, hoping to suppress any resistance and seize power for himself. As the infected search party members return to the capital, panic ensues, and the soldiers set fire to houses with the inhabitants still inside. The old man leads Yun's group to a secret passageway into the palace, where they discover a chamber with huge cages. The old man reveals that the former king of Chosun had a fascination with monsters and kept them in the castle. The servant, who had cared for these creatures, helped one of them escape when Yungjong ordered their extermination. That creature, now a ruthless monster, is the very beast terrorizing the kingdom. The creature enters the secret passage, and the old man sacrifices himself to distract it, allowing Yun and the others to escape. The monster, however, quickly breaks free and resumes its pursuit. Prime Minister Sim addresses the people, pretending to be their savior, while secretly planning to solidify his power. Meanwhile, Yun's team reaches the king's chambers, informing him that the monster is real and was bred within the castle walls. Sim, arriving with his guards, seizes power, injures the king, and orders the execution of Yun and his companions. But before the order is carried out, the creature bursts into the palace, throwing everyone into chaos. In the chaos, Sim is mortally wounded, and Yun's group attempts to lead the creature away from the people. It recognizes Myung, who had cared for it when it was a baby, and hesitates in its attack. Taking advantage of the moment, Yun manages to injure the creature with a powerful strike, driving it into a rage. The creature, now weakened, flees the palace, and the group chases it to the edge of the city. In a final confrontation, Yun and Myung deliver the killing blow, ending the monster's reign of terror. King Jungjong, though severely injured, vows to rebuild the kingdom and restore peace. Yun, Myung, and Sung decide to return to their village, having fulfilled their duty. Myung, now aware of her past and the horrors she has faced, feels a deep connection to the land and its people. If you enjoy it, click and subscribe and watch the next video.